Hey everybody, Tekking101 here. Now, there are two characters in the Bleach series, more than any other characters, that I always get requests to make discussion videos about. I get requests for pretty much every Bleach character, but these are two in particular. And one of them is Shuhei Hisagi, and I'm like, alright, I can kind of see that. I mean, if you read the final arc, I mean, even long before, the ending of the final arc, even near the beginning, you can tell that whatever plot train, Kubo put Shuhei on got derailed and crashed into a mountain at 300 miles an hour, okay? Like, that was abysmal. I mean, did you see that? Like, it was like, okay, you got the shit kicked out of him by the Stern Ritters, and then it was revealed, like, oh, he might have a Bankai, and it just, they even joke about that in the final chapter. Just like, didn't you have a Bankai? And Shuhei's like, yeah, I totally do. I just never got a chance to use it. I'm like, fuck you. I don't know. I guess, he was maybe setting him up as, like, because Kubo always described Shuhei, even back in, like, the Soul Society arc when no one gave a shit about him. He only got, like, 2 scenes. He was like, yeah, he seems like a really cool character to draw, and maybe he was trying to do a thing where he was like, throughout the course of the series, I'm going to bring him more into the limelight. I'm going to give him, like, a badass Shikai reveal, really a lot more cool fights, and then maybe set him up to be, like, the next captain of the 9th Division or something, and then, this didn't go anywhere. But I understand why you want me to make a video about Shuhei, and I will be doing that in the future. And the other character that always I get requests to talk about for whatever reason, Izuru Kira. I don't, like, really? Izuru? Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Like, this looks like the kind of guy that, like, has insomnia, and you're on the subway to work, and you're, like, drinking your coffee, and then you look over at this guy who just hates his fucking life, and he just looks at you staring at him, and he's like, what the fuck are you looking at, you piece of shit? I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sorry. Izuru Kira. Alright, what are the shining moments in this manga that spotlight Izuru Kira? Okay, well, in the Soul Society arc, he fought against Momo very briefly. Yeah, that was the thing. And Rangiku, to which he got the shit beat out of him. Let's see. He spent most of the time in a jail cell, though, crying over Gein's defection. Let's see. Nothing in the Iran arc. Oh, he fought against Dulk in the Bount arc, but I guess we could just kind of disregard that. Avarama, he had this really cool fight with Avarama. Slit his, reverse guillotine move there with his sword, which was, I think everybody will admit, this is the best it got. Like, this is, like, the high point of Izuru, like, there. Like, there's nothing beyond this that really trumps this scene. I mean, it was an entire fight dedicated entirely to him. He got an entire chapter, cool, exposition into his character, like, the symbol of Squad 3 is the marigold. It stands for despair. He has sort of like an emo thing going on. I don't know if you were aware of that. He almost didn't even make this cover. Like, I would say at least he got, like, the cover for one of the Tonkabons, but he almost didn't even get this. There's an alternate cover for Volume 15 that is just, like, Ichigo on it, Like, so he barely even squeaked by to get a Tonkabon cover, right? Well, then after this, he doesn't get beaten down by Ion. I was going to say, oh, then he got, punched by Ion. He didn't get killed by Ion. It was Yamamoto that, like, saved him there, but he did nothing throughout the rest of that entire arc, the Fake Karakura arc. He was pretty much just there, like, well, I'll try to heal everybody, but I'm just a 4th squad member, it's been a while since I've been there, but I'll give it a shot. There was this massive war in Karakura Town, and the only medic they brought along was me for whatever reason, but okay. Does nothing in the Fullbringer arc, and then finally we get to the final arc, where, he gets a hole punched through him by Basby. It's very likely Basby just, like, burner-fingered him right through the fucking chest, knocked out his arm, which, of course, we all know Kubo likes to do, but also lost a considerable chunk of his chest there. And this happened fairly early on in the arc. This happened during the first invasion. So it was like, I think it was more or less just a way to shock the audience, because Kubo was like, okay, it's the final arc, I gotta make sure this threat is an actual threat. I can't have, like, just getting arms cut off ain't gonna be good enough. I'm gonna have characters start dying. So he kills off Sasakibe, and then he goes on to Izuru. And you know what? I felt some, because Sasakibe wasn't relevant in this story at fucking all. Like, he was not. You know, like, he did the backstory afterwards, but as he died, did anyone, I mean, I kind of sort of missed him. I'm not going to say I, like, freaked out over it. I had to play it up for the review, but I wasn't like, oh no, Sasakibe's dead. You know, he wasn't a relevant character, okay? And then Izuru dies, and I'm thinking, okay, this is something, like, he's not incredibly relevant, but we at least know a lot more about him than we do Sasakibe. We know about his personality and his history with Momo and with Renji. You know, they had that flashback when they were training in the living world. We had a fight with Momo. We had the fight when he's defending Gin. We had the fight with Rangiku where he's, you know, has his dedication to Gin. Then we had the fight with Avarama, which revealed his mantra for battle, like his dogma. And, like, okay, and now you killed him off, and that's a big deal, you know? This is where it gets weird. At this point, this is where it gets very weird. So, we don't see him for, like, this happened in, like, chapter 494. Like, he got, like, the whole pun. He turned into Swiss cheese, basically. We don't hear anything about him for probably over 100, 150 chapters. When the Bleach 13 Blades fan book was released, it had an extra chapter in there, and one of the pages of the extra chapter showed Mayuri and Nemu working on Izuru's corpse, and they had all these wires and shit pumping into him, you know, like his entire, like, chest hole was, like, covered with machinery. So I was like, alright, that gives us an indication that he's alive, cool, and he's going to maybe do something else very prevalent. There was also a cool sketch done in 13 Blades where, you know, you see Izuru with the mechanical parts in his body, you know, like Cyborg Kira, bigger, faster, stronger, more emo than ever before. It's Izuru 2.0. And I'm like, all right, how's this going to be incorporated? Now, you know, every time I say this, I always get a little bit of backlash into people, like, saying that it didn't happen this way, it happened another way. There's really no official statement on this. There isn't. One way or the other, there's no official statement on what happened at the end of Bleach. Okay, Kubo hasn't come out and said, oh, this is what happened. And Shueisha didn't even really come out and say, you know, we just canceled it. And this is when the notification was given. There's a lot of speculation I've been hearing, you know, like, oh, well, all mangakas get like a 1-year notification when their series are ending. I'm like, all right, well, then give me that. Can you give me the evidence for that? That'd be rather important instead of you just randomly saying it. So nobody knows for certain, okay? But as someone who's been reviewing this for 5 fucking years, as someone who's done extensive research into this, as someone who's read each and every one of these chapters multiple times for research, I have, like, an idea of where this is going. And at chapter 680, this thing just, like, skewed downward. Like, we moved from, like, the fights with the Schutzstaffen were, like, well-paced for the most part. Each one was getting, like, 6 or 7 chapters dedicated to the fights. You'd feel like if Kubo was really rushing at that point, you'd feel like he would shorten those fights. Because some of those, I mean, there's a lot of stuff material with the fights against the Schutzstaffen that you could shorten down. It wasn't until, like, chapter 680 when the announcement was made, like, all of a sudden everything starts speeding up at, like, light speed. Okay. With that being said, in chapter 654, this was right after the fight with Shunsui and Lilia, when Nanao uses Shinken Hakyoken, disperses Lilia into light, has him float back down to the Soul Society. That's when we get, boom, Cyborg Kira, who might also be a zombie. A zombie Cyborg Kira. Okay, that's when we get him. That's when he shows up, right? So, he shows up, and he stands really cool with the moon behind him, and then he cuts up one of Lilia's heads, and then he says he's gonna, like, fight against Lilia, and that's it. That's it. That's it. Nothing else. Absolutely nothing else. Yeah, that's what cues me up a little bit, because there is setting things up and then having a shitty payoff for them later. I think Aizen is a good example of this. You know, like, oh shit, Aizen's being released from prison. This is intense, man. and then he sits around in a chair for 60 chapters, and then at the very end of the series, he shows up and has a little bit of a scuffle with Yuha. Not a good payoff at all. Not a good payoff. It is a payoff, just a really shitty payoff. It's like, oh man, I dumped $300 into this freaking slot machine. Yeah, it's alright, you get $5 back, you're good. Yeah, so that's an example of a shitty payoff. This isn't even a payoff. This is nothing. This is like you have a winning lottery ticket. Like, I have $1 million lottery ticket, and you keep trying to cash it in. They're like, no, we can't cash it in now. Try tomorrow. And then it's just a never-ending cycle. Like, this is what this is. So, you know, those people that come up to me and say, you know, Kubo knew this was going to end, you know, months and months and months in advance. And, you know, I can't. It's not just because of Izuru, but just from the way and the pace of the story that we were in when the Schutzstaffen fights were going on, moving into the pace of the final battle, it gets so thrown out of whack, and there's so much shit dropped off by the wayside, Izuru included. I can't buy that. I really can't. Okay. But that's my thoughts just on that. Alright, so Izuru himself, I never really cared much for him as a character. I thought he had a cool design with the hair and everything, you know. But I never really got way into his character, you know. His fight with Avarama was good. I liked his statement at the end there. It was really, really heightened in the anime because you had that theme playing in the background, where it was like that violin music that was playing as he was saying, you know, the Squad 3 emblem is the Marigold. I think that kind of made it a little bit more of an emotional fight for me. But he didn't get any more spotlight after that, like, at all, like, nothing. He got nothing. There was clearly some more stuff to discuss his character. He was part of the 4th Division at one point. What's that story about? Why did he... Because we always, like, learn, like, oh yeah, after the academy, after the incident where they were training in the world of the living, where, you know, Renji, Momo, and Izuru were fighting against those hollows, Shuhei was there too. After that incident occurred, you know, Aizen and Gin witnessed their promise, and so Aizen took Momo, Gin took Izuru, and then they shipped Renji off to the other divisions because he was kind of like the problem child. But it's like, okay, but he was also part of the 4th Division. Like, where does that fit in? Was he part of the 4th Division before the 3rd or after? Like, where does that fit in? He also had somewhat of a best friend relationship with Shuhei. You know, where's the thing with that? Now, as a Bankai theory, you know, Kubo came out and said, I think he was asked a question about Izuru's Bankai once, and Kubo's response to this was like, you know, Izuru's Bankai would be too disgusting to see, or something like that. Like, his whole character, I mean, he's an emo guy. Like, that's not even me making fun of him. Like, his whole deal is, like, dark, dank, and depression. Like, that's his thing. Like, look at the fucking title of this tankobon. He's, like, trapped in a cell of his own darkness that was created from the bars of his own melancholy. Like, that is Izuru's character right there. Do you ever see Izuru, like, really happy? There was a few scenes, I think, where he got drunk with Rangiku, and he's just like, yeah, guys, whatever. But aside from that, like, he's a pretty... He needs to be on antidepressants. Like, he's not a very cheery fella. So, and you can see this, like, his Zanpakuto itself, like, Shuhei complains about, my Zanpakuto, all it does is reap lives, you know, and then you get to freaking Izuru's, which is like, bitch, my Zanpakuto forces my opponent to bow in penitence as I enact an execution upon them with a reverse guillotine. Oh, but you have scythe blades, so yeah, that's way more grisly. And like, no, Izuru is probably by far the most grisly, dark, depressing fucking Zanpakuto. You know, and if you even see it in the anime arc, it is so damn sad. Wabisuke is like this emaciated, gray-colored dude walking around, super long hair with a fucking gravestone he has to forcibly carry on his back. He's always hunched over, and he can only, like, communicate by, like, I think he speaks a few times, but when we first see him, he, like, shakes his chain to communicate. It's really fucking sad. Like, just put this poor thing out of its misery, God. So, unlike Shuhei, though, I don't feel like Kubo really had a setup for his Bankai. You know, because like I said, while as Izuru didn't really get a lot more spotlight after that, you know, Shuhei did. Shuhei got, at least was in a few fights, without just being one-hit killed by freaking, like Izuru did. And, you know, he was in a fight with Driscoll, he was in a fight with Master Masculine, he was in a fight with Pepe. Like, you can see, like, you know, Kubo is maybe trying to incorporate him, he just never had an opportunity to utilize his Bankai. And I'm not giving Kubo a Hail Mary pass on that, like, he's, you know, you shouldn't have set it up if you're not gonna fucking use it, you know? But yeah, like that is something that was just weird. You know, I don't know if, like, in that situation, I don't know if Kubo was planning on releasing a Bankai for him or not, because it was like, he does have one. Like, I want everyone to know that. Like, it's been 100% confirmed that Shuhei does have a Bankai, but he's never utilized it. Whatever, we're not here to talk about Shuhei. Oh man, yeah, and there's really not much else for me to discuss about him. His loyalty to Gin a little bit. He got over that pretty, you know, like, Momo was the one that was stuck to, like, obsession with her captain. Shuhei and Izuru kind of, like, they were broken down at first about it. Izuru probably, you know, more so than Shuhei, but he managed to get over it. You know, and understand, you know, why Gin defected and everything like that. I really kind of wish that Izuru would have witnessed Gin's, like, betrayal of Aizen. That's one of the saddest things I always saw in the Bleach series, was that Gin wanted to actually kill Aizen, and he dedicated, like, his whole life, you know, for 100 years to try to find a way to kill Aizen. And he fought because he hurt wrong, like, he, like, you know, Rangiku's pain and suffering was kind of, like, in a sense, like, caused by him, because you see that scene where all of, like, Aizen's, like, thugs, like, they beat down Rangiku and took her, like, spirit energy and, like, gave it to Aizen, and that's how he sees Aizen, and Gin decides to kill him. When Gin enacts this plan, and he uses, like, kill him, Kameshini no Yari, and he does the thing with Aizen's chest and takes the Hogyoku, no one is there to witness that. No one saw him do that. You know, Rangiku appears after the fact, but Gin had his fucking throat crushed, and he didn't have a chance to explain anything. So, for as far as Izuru and Rangiku, and as far as everybody is concerned, you know, he died a traitorous bastard, and no one knows and saw what he really did. So I really wish that Izuru would have witnessed his captain, like, oh, I wasn't really such a bad guy after all. That would have been really emotional to see, but we didn't get to see it. And that's pretty much it. So I guess I'll just end out this video by asking you guys, what cool thing did you want Cyborg Kira to do? Death laser? I don't know, like, he reaches into his chest cavity and has, like, a bomb in there or something. Like, Mayori's the one that modify him. He probably has a hidden explosive somewhere in there. I don't know. I'm curious how that fight with Lille was supposed to go down. Lille himself, we didn't even really see a resolution on that. We can assume that Yuha, like, the Holy Selection just removed Lille, but we never actually saw it, but we can assume. Maybe they killed each other. Maybe Lille and Izuru just killed each other, or, like, Lille just killed him and then just got absorbed back into Yuha. You know, maybe that's a way to go down there. But better question about all of this is that Izuru Zanpakuto Wabisuke doubles the weight of anything it cuts, right? Yeah, of course. So, how the hell could it be effective on Lille, who's made of light? Physicists, get on this. Weight of light and multiplied, like, even if light does have weight, which I'm sure if you look at some form of, like, astrophysics or something, light probably does have a mass, but probably not very much of one. How many times would you have to double that to actually cause it to, you know? It's not important, Matt. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. All right. Signing out.